they say when the pain gets great enough, you'll do something about it. I just was tired of the suffering. I
Yeah.
was tired of the suffering, and I had burnt every bridge, and I just didn't want to live like that anymore, you know. But the biggest thing was is that I knew that I couldn't worry about what people thought of me anymore.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. The thing that had me exit was I got tired of the pain. I got tired of suffering. You know, I didn't want to have to reduce myself to somebody else to do whatever for $1 for drugs. I didn't want to do that because in the beginning I was trafficked and prostituted through a person, and then in the end I was doing it for drugs for the drug dealer, right? And so I just got tired of the rat race that comes along with addiction, and I just got tired of sleeping with people that I don't like, that don't like me, that don't respect me. I just got tired of it.
So, welcome to the Change Mind, the place where we talk about everything wellness, mind, body, and soul. So, today we have our special guest, Dr. Stacy Reed-Barnes. Yay! It's been a minute trying to connect, but I'm excited to have her here today. So, Stacy, would you just like to introduce yourself to the platform? Just tell us a quick little bit about yourself before we get into wherever it is we're going.
Sure. Thank you for having me today. Yes, my name is Dr. Stacy Reed-Barnes, and I am a survivor leader professional. I have been doing this work in human services for like about the last 28 years, which was mostly with substance people, working with people who have substance use disorders. And in the last year, I decided to really hone in on, I feel like my calling to working with people who experience some kind of human trafficking, commercial sexual exploitation, and prostitution. So I am a person who lives to walk in her purpose to help folks who've suffered as I have. You know, I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and I just felt like all my life that there needed to be, I wish there was somebody that could have given me some information or way out or some comfort, some kind of comfort to exit. And so when I made a conscious decision to get clean and sober 15 years ago, I spoke to God, and I was like, if you could just please tell me what your calling is for me, then, you know, I want to do that. And I've always felt like I needed to go back and help the people, really the little girl who suffered like I did when I was like from the ages of 6 and up, right? But mostly after the ages of 14. So I'm here today to be an example of how we don't have to let our trauma define us, and that we can move on for the betterment of our life, considering all that we go through in this life. And so I just want to be a vision of hope and help others. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for doing that and for showing up in this way, because it takes a lot of courage, right, to take what we've been through and to now share it with the world.
Right.
So, as I mentioned to you, I have one main question. What's your story?
Ooh, my story is long. My story is not unique, though. My story is tumultuous. My story is deep. My story is sad. But my story is a story of hope, and a story of gratitude, and a story of love and appreciation. Mm-hmm. And so if I had to start from the beginning, I come from humble beginnings. I come from a dark background, from a dysfunctional family here in Massachusetts, in Boston. I was born in projects, which was known as Columbia Point Projects. And at the age of 7 months old, my mom was brutally murdered. And as a result, I went to live with my mother's family. And what happened was, a lot of stuff happened. So we don't have enough time today to talk about it. But what happened was that my mom, when she passed away, my dad, he was in the Air Force in California, and he just had to, I guess he had to live his life, and he let me live my life with my mom's biological family, which was a very dysfunctional family. And as a result, I grew up in a way where I always believed that dysfunction was okay. I grew up in a place where drinking alcohol, cursing and swearing, yelling, lying, and doing all those kind of things was okay. And if you weren't criminal-minded, then you weren't cool. But something always inside of me wanted to be good, to do the right thing, because I went to school. But it was like I was so confused, like between my biological family and then my adopted family that I went to go stay with when I was about like maybe 4 or 5, and they because they were the family who were like, you go to school, you do your chores, you take care of your personal hygiene, you're a pretty little girl. Whereas my biological family was always a competition. Not to say that my auntie that was trying to raise me didn't love me, but she had 8 of her own children, and she took on my mother's 5 children after she was murdered, and she was an alcoholic, and so she loved me the best way that she could, So when I think back, well, I'm missing her right now. She passed away. But when I think back over her efforts to do the best she could with 13 children, I'm not mad at her for being an alcoholic. I'm not mad at her for not understanding or seeing when the abuse started happening, not only from her children to me, but from my foster family's children, right? I had foster parents, and they had children who did some things, and it wasn't okay. And to top all of that off, I had a foster dad by way of Southwest Georgia who, I guess his way was to, like, he was a really, really hard disciplinary. Like, he believed in, like, the corporal punishment. Like, I got the beatings with the extension cords, the wash machine hose, the firewood, and things of that nature. Like, in that foster home, you knew to do your chores. Like, you knew to get good grades in school, because if you didn't, you would feel the wrath of my foster dad. And so when I think back over my life and all that I've been through, it's a lot.
Okay, sure. Question. So I just want to connect. So you, after your mom, you went to your aunts, right?
Right.
So she had 8 children of her own, and she had 5 of you.
Right.
How did you land in foster care or with your adopted parent?
See, so back in the days, right? Back in the day, because that was the 60s and 70s, right? And then when you lived in a projects, there was no such thing as like DCF and Family Child Protective Services. It wasn't like that. It was like we all lived in a building together, so we were family. A matter of fact, my biological auntie, my mom, which is my mom's sister who took us in, her brother was dating my auntie's oldest daughter. So we all just seen everyone as family. Okay. So whereas my auntie was an alcoholic and she was hardly there with the 13 kids, the lady on the 3rd floor, which was which was her friend, I just started hanging out on the stoop, and every day she would come in from work, and she would say, "Oh, such a pretty little girl," and she would give us treats and things of that nature. She had 1 daughter. So she would invite me to come upstairs and play with her daughter and, like, give me cute little clothes, comb my hair, and give me treats, until finally, like, she offered my aunt, like, to be able to take me to her job because she was a cook for Cambridge Head Start. So that's how that happened. I wasn't adopted into my adopted family. I just say it was like a foster home, because it was a foster home without all the logistics, without all the red tape. You know what I mean? So, and they were friends. They were all friends. It was like we all lived in the same building, 23 Montpelier and Columbia Point, right? And we just grew up as like one big happy family back in the days. There was no such thing as like, no social worker ever came and said, "Oh, we're gonna remove the kids from the house and bring them." No, that didn't happen. It was like an agreement, like Auntie Connie, Auntie Irene was struggling, so Auntie Connie came along and said, "I'll help you with Stacy," and that's how it happened. And so I just wound up staying with Auntie Connie. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering how, because I heard you say, foster adopted, so I was just curious how those, what happened. Okay.
Right. So actually, it really wasn't. It was just like I transitioned from one family to the other with their permission, and, because we all grew up together forever, And so I went to stay with my you might as well say my third family, we'll call it, right? And a lot of things happened there because again, my parents were my parents were workaholics, not alcoholics. They worked a lot.
Okay.
And so they didn't have time to stay back home and watch over the kids. Even though Daddy was like a super disciplinary, it was like you knew to have your chores done before Daddy came home from school. You better have your homework done, and it better be written right, and it better be neat, and all the things. Like he was old school by way of Southwest Georgia. Like he didn't take no stuff. And so I grew up in a house like that, and my foster brother, one of them, his uncle and his cousin, they did some things to me that just wasn't okay. And because they threatened my life, I just never said anything. And I didn't think my parents would believe me because they was doing it to my foster sister too. So I was like, well, wow, we can't win for losing in here. And like, I guess this has to be okay because these things are happening and it's really not okay. I always knew that it wasn't okay to be sexually active at such a young age. But there's nothing you can do when people are taking advantage of you. So I lived in a house like that for a while, and it even carried over to like when my third mother would take me out to Cambridge to her mother's house, to the family house. It was her brother who used to molest me, and I just always, from those times, I just lost all my self-worth. Like I really thought at a young age, 5 or 6 years old, I thought it was my fault that people were sexually assaulting me, and I just didn't know what I didn't know. And as a result, a lot of resentment and anger kicked in, and denial, and and then I learned how to like really be a good liar because you have to lie. I learned how to be a good person to suppress and push down my emotions and my feelings because they were threatening my life, and let me just my parents were not there, and it's not because they didn't want to be there. It was because they had to work to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Because when they did come around, we ate good food, we had good clothes, we had a very nice house, but these things were happening in this house, and I couldn't tell a soul.
Yeah, you had mentioned you were starting before I cut you off and asked you about the order you were talking about. Was it your uncle? Your dad, someone that was the strict disciplinary being.
I was my third dad, my foster dad, the one I call my foster dad, right?
Okay.
He was a super disciplinary. Like he believed in you got whoopings, we got whoopings. He believed in like you got the belt, the extension cord, the tractor belt, the washing machine hose, the firewood. You got the open hand slap. You got the backhand. You got the shoes thrown at you. You got, pushed down. You got your hair pulled. Like I'm talking about. Like when I think back over the way he was, I feel like now in this day and age, because I've grown along in my education, that I feel like that was his way, and he came from an era where not too far from like his mom, from in Georgia, like they believed in corporal punishment. So like my grandma from down south used to beat them with switches and brooms and bull whips and things of that nature, and then he was also a person, and I'm not making excuses for him, but he wasn't in Vietnam War, you know what I mean? And so he just believed in like, he taught us a lot of manners. It was always like, yes, ma'am, no, sir, please, and thank you. Like we knew to be on point around Daddy. Like Daddy was like, he zero tolerance with the disrespect. You didn't get in grown folks' conversations. You stayed in the child's place. You got good grades in school. You took care of your hygiene, and you did what you needed to do, or you were gonna get it. So I was really like careful to like living in that house, like to stay out of trouble. Like everything I was supposed to do, I did. And so, because I caught a few of them spankings, but I think he only had to spank me a couple of times for me to say, and I watched the way he beat my siblings, and I was like, well, I know I don't want those whoopings, so I ain't doing that. So I always stayed on the roll in school. I was with them from kindergarten. I did 4 years at Cambridge Head Start, and then I stayed with them from Head Start from all the way up to the 5th grade. I lived with them, and all the way up to the 5th grade. these things was happening until finally one time my foster dad, he had given me a beating that was so bad that I was like black and blue and stuff. And I went to school, and the school nurse seen it, and she was gonna report it. And that's when DCF first started, I believe, like right around the area right around the time when these people started reporting people for child abuse and all the things. So when my biological family found out that my foster family was doing that to me, like my aunt, who was supposed to be responsible for me, she came back and got me and brought me back to her house. She came and got me to go back and live with them, but she was not a disciplinary like my foster family was. Like, she just let us do whatever we wanted to do. Like, it wasn't that she didn't care. I don't know. I really don't know what was going on with her, because at the time when she came and got me after I was in the 5th grade, she had stopped drinking. She wasn't an alcoholic anymore. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But she liked to gamble. Like, she liked to play bingo and casino and things of that nature. But she wasn't really hard on me. Like, I was the baby of the family, so she babied me. You know what I mean? Like, she always let me have whatever I want. I guess she felt a little guilty about what happened to me in that house. As far as the beating, she didn't know about the sex assault. She knew about the beatings I was getting. She didn't know that I was being sexually assaulted, and I never told her. And she passed away now, and I never got a chance to tell her, because I couldn't come to terms with the sex assault until these last 15 years. Yeah. So I got a lot of family with mixed feelings about like how I came out, to share my story and all that. A lot of people got mad at me. I'm a published author. My book is live on Amazon, Stacy's Joy, A Woman Moving Forward, the autobiography. And the reason why I wrote that was so that I could free myself to move on for the betterment of my life. See, when I decided to get a formal education 15 years ago, I actually had family members telling me that, oh, you can't go get an education, nobody's gonna listen to you, and nobody know that that you were an addict, like you were a crackhead, like you was a whore, like you was a prostitute. But I'm thinking in the back of my mind, and I was raped as a child, like I was molested as a child. So, and you're my family, you're supposed to be rooting for me. You see me trying to get clean and sober and going to school and getting an education, and because you don't have a formal education, you're trying to deter me. Like this is your darkness, like this is your dysfunction, And I just believe in God, because I feel like it was the grace of God that was on me that said, don't listen to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to do drugs anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. I want to get clean and sober, and I want to have a good life, and I want to help people like me, And so I just went down to Roxbury Community College, and I said, I want to go to school. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I want to help people like me. And they was like human services, but I really couldn't tell them about the sex assault or the prostitution. I could only tell them about the addiction, because I knew most of the folks, that was more acceptable, right? Yeah. It's not really acceptable for somebody to come along and say, oh, by the way, I was molested as a child, and as a result, I became a full-blown prostitute who was trafficked up and down the East Coast. Like, you can't really say that to everybody. I couldn't even say it in the NA meetings when I got clean, because before I got to leave the meeting, I had somebody soliciting me, or somebody with a bright idea. Like, the women would say, oh, I know this trick, or I know this John, or I know this person, this sucker we can get money for. Or I would have the men trying to like solicit me to pimp me out again, or to do. And I had enough abuse in my life. Like, people really didn't know the depth of my backstory. You understand what I mean? And so getting clean and sober was the hardest thing for me, and so. But I stood on what I believed in at Roxbury Community College, and I didn't say anything until it was time, And I'm just grateful for the God of my understanding that He helped me be able to exit in a way that was appropriate for me. I just knew that I didn't want to die like I was with all the trauma and drama that was happening to me. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't like anything that ever happened to me in that way. And I had friends along the way, and the drugs make you suppress and not feel what's happening. But deep down inside, I was disgusted with people touching me that I knew didn't care about me, and doing things with people that I didn't care for, And then on top of all of that, having to go back and give somebody all of my money. Yeah. And then only for them to beat me down so I had became immune to the physical abuse, because I was getting beaten since I was a kid. Yeah. And I had love twisted with lust, and I thought that if my boyfriend didn't love me, if my boyfriend didn't hit me, he didn't love me.
Yep.
So I had it all twisted up. I
Yep.
was because I watched my foster mother or my third family, right? I watched my dad beat the crap out of her too. Not only was he beating the crap out of the kids, but he was beating the crap out of her. So I said, "Oh, that must be what a relationship's supposed to be. Like your husband beats the brakes off of you, and you just stay there no matter what. You endure the abuse, you don't tell anybody, and you keep going on in that madness."
It's such a common thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is. It's like this must be what love is,
Right.
right? Because it becomes so normalized, and like you said,
Right.
things been happening to you since you was a little child. So why would I think anything different? Because if I see something different, then that might seem off. You know what I
Right.
mean? That might seem like, oh, well, they don't love me because
Right.
I'm not
Right.
getting beat, I'm not getting hit, because this has become normal,
Right.
right? And we see that so much. Yeah.
Right. And when people were there were times I remember when I was coming up as a teenager, like people would say please and thank you to me, and I would get mad at them because they weren't disrespecting me, like, and I knew that I learned some of those values from my foster parents, but I had such mixed emotions about all that happened transpired in that house. I didn't want to hear that. Like the dysfunction, the damage was already done, and that's why I just really believe that the grace of God just put it on my heart one day to say, enough. You suffered enough, girl. I don't want to live like this no more. I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm not, and I don't care who thinks what, and I ain't got a point to prove to anybody. I'm just going to go ahead to the schoolhouse and get my lesson and figure it out. That's what I'm going to do. And so I
What
skipped over.
age, Dr. Barnes, at what age were you when the addiction and the trafficking started? Do you
It
remember?
started when I was 14 years old.
14.
Because I was in high school here in Boston, and I met a boy who I thought was my knight in shining armor. If you read my book, it's all in the autobiography.
Gotcha.
And we hung out in the hood, and we had friends who were pimps and prostitutes, and they was like glorifying it. In my hood, they glorified the Foxy Browns, the Superflies, all the stuff like that. So they thought it was all cool. I thought it was cool to look at, but I never thought it was going to happen to me until one night he said to me, he was like, "Oh, we got to get this money." I wanted to run away to be with him. I didn't want to listen at the age of 14 and 15. I didn't really like any of my family that I was staying with because everywhere I went, I felt like they used me. It wasn't like I could be a teenager or a young lady. It was like, you come stay with me, you clean my house, and you watch my children. It's not about like, what do you want to do in your life? What do you like to do? I wanted to join cheerleading squads. I wanted to join dance teams. I wanted to go roller skating. All that stuff I couldn't do because my cousins that I stayed with, right, which was my aunt that had adopted me first when my mother died, my mother's sister, her daughters, whenever I stayed with them, it was about me being like their servant. It wasn't about me like being able to be a child, like a teenager, like a girl. You know what I mean? Like of course they had made sure like I got nice clothes to wear and stuff like that. But like after the nice clothes, it was like you gotta watch my child with no pay. Like you gotta live in my house and clean up, like and then so it was bad. So I was like, I'm tired of like not at the age of 14 to 15, all my friends can do these things and I can't. Every time I turn around and ask my cousin, so I started running away. And then when I met the boy in school, he was, I fell in love. He was my knight in shining armor, and I ran away and stayed with him. And he introduced me to some of his friends who were prostitutes and pimps and hustlers and thieves and robbers and all the things. And these are all the cool people in the hood who are having the parties 24/7, who are getting high and living their best life. So I was like, hey, this is the life. Like, this is what I want to do. And you can't really make an informed decision at 14 or 15 years old, but I did. And it was because it was the first time that I had sex with a boy that I wasn't raped this time. It was like it was like I believed he made love to me when in fact it was just love. It was just sex. And I had it twisted, horribly twisted. Now that I'm 58, I can look back and say, girl, you a sick child, right? You really didn't know what you didn't know. And so that's what I teach nowadays. Like I do a lot of workshops and presentations and information sessions around the phenomenon of human trafficking and how people get groomed into it, and what gaslighting and brainwashing is, and what manipulation is. And I even interview some of the abusers, the buyers, and things of that nature to, ask them like, what is your thought process when you're doing this to these people? And so I have a lot of wonderful presentations that that I do and that I've been able to research internationally. So I'm international. I've been all around the world doing the research, and but mostly I stand on the information that I get to hurry up and like give it back, if you will. You know what I mean? If anybody's gonna have me come do a presentation, then and I'm very animated and I'm very passionate about the work that I do. So I feel like the grace of God is on me that all my presentations come out to be really great. Really great. I feel like God is smiling on me to do this work, like to help the people who suffer from the phenomenon of human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation.
Yeah, I'm so grateful because I'm a true believer that, there's so many people that have been through a lot of things, right?
Right.
But many people that have been through a lot of things, a lot of folks hold it in out of fear, out of judgment, out of shame. And I'm just a true believer that what we have went through was not for naught. And meaning there's folks that need what we've experienced.
Right.
It might not be all of it, but there's something about what we have been through that other folks need to know so that they know I can get out. I don't have to be addicted forever. I don't have to be a part of this life, right? So we're grateful for individuals like yourself who are bold, right? Who are bold, and doesn't mean you might not feel something, sometimes might feel uncomfortable or whatever the case may be, but yet you're bold and you say, you know what, I got to get this out here because this is my way of whether saving folks, educating folks, whatever it is. So we're so grateful for your journey and for your willingness to share with the world. Right, your experience. So we thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I do want to ask, what was the thing, if you can remember, what was the thing that registered that said, I'm tired and enough is enough?
Well, the thing that said that the deciding factor for me 15 years ago when I got clean and sober was that I just didn't want to live like that anymore. They say when the pain gets great enough, you'll do something about it. I just was tired of the suffering. Yeah. I was tired of the suffering, and I had burnt every bridge, and I just didn't want to live like that anymore, but the biggest thing was that I knew that I couldn't worry about what people thought of me anymore. Yeah. It didn't matter. And so the thing that had me exit was I got tired of the pain. I got tired of suffering. I didn't want to have to reduce myself to somebody else to do whatever for $1 for drugs. I didn't want to do that because in the beginning I was trafficked and prostituted through a person, and then in the end I was doing it for drugs, for the drug dealer, right? And so I just got tired of the rat race that comes along with addiction, and I just got tired of sleeping with people that I don't like, that don't like me, that don't respect me. I just got tired of it, And so that was. They say when the person's ready, they'll know because they'll get out. Mm-hmm.
Yep. You get tired, you're tired. Mm-hmm. Right, and we start to move.
Awesome. The shame, the guilt, and all that. I have 4 children. And I need to go back and be a mother, So I knew that I hadn't had my mother all my life, and that I felt some kind of emptiness or something missing from me because I was robbed of her when I was 7 months old, and I just felt like that's not something I really want to do to my children, So now, 15 years later, now I'm mommy. But 15 years ago, I was not mommy. You're not my mother. They was, tell us when you want us to bury you. I can't believe you're doing this to us. And my first 5 to 6 years clean, they used to say to me, why should we help you celebrate something you should have been doing all your life? Mm-hmm. We've been watching you use all your life. You want us to celebrate. We don't, look, lady, get out my face. It wasn't until I got 10 years clean that my kids actually threw me a surprise party. And when I came home from work, they had all the balloons, the cake, and they even made me a special medallion for 10 years clean. And every year after that, they make sure they do something cool for my clean time anniversary, which is March 19th.
Awesome. You answered my question because I was going to ask you a question. When you got clean and sober, how did your kids respond? So you answered that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're pretty cool now. I mean, we have our days, but for the most part, my children are respectful. They call me mom. I'm a grandma. My grandchildren never had a chance to see me use or lose or do anything crazy. That, thank God, is good. They love their granny, and I do want them to call me granny. They call me granny.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of times, just like you mentioned, a lot of times it's a struggle for kids where, the parent on the other end is like, look, I'm clean. And the kids are like, and
Right.
you've been clean.
My
Like,
kids were definitely.
a
My
lot of
oldest
kids feel like,
son,
yeah,
my two oldest kids was like, and we don't care. They was like, and what? And I
they
remember
push you
crying like my
away.
first 3 years. I was a crybaby. I was like, oh, they'll never forgive me. But then my husband, because I'm married too, then my husband was like, well, what do you expect? What you want them to do? Like,
Yeah.
what do you expect? And so he was like, that's okay. Just keep doing what you need to do. He's such a big support.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, he's such a big support. Let me just keep that real. We've both been through our stuff over the years. We got 37 years this year.
Ah, awesome.
So we've been through some stuff, boo. That's a whole nother podcast. But anyway,
Yes, ma'am.
but we're definitely the team, the parents in the home. We're homeowners. We're married. We're legitimate. I'm a real doctor. And if you would have asked me this 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to say these words. Because 15 years ago, I was hopeless. 15 years ago, I didn't want to live anymore. 15 years ago, I remember just wanting to die because my life was so bad. And so that's why it's important for me to continue the work to reach over, not back. People say reach back. I believe in reaching over to help my sisters and brothers who are suffering as I have, and to be the vision of hope and the help that they need for whatever they want to do. Because I'm not against folks who are stuck, right? Because a lot of times I'm a social worker by trade, and I do human services, and I'm a foot soldier. I'm boots on the ground out here in Mass and Cass, Blue Hill Ave, Dorchester Ave, wherever else somebody might be out here doing some things, right? I meet folks where they're at. I believe in harm reduction. If I could just come on the track wherever you're at, say hi to you, buy you a coffee, give you a pack of cigarettes, and hang out with you for a couple of hours, I do that. You don't have to say, oh, I'm ready to go detox. I want to get off the track. I want to stop doing. You don't have to do all that. Because I remember in times where I couldn't hear people. You know what I mean? But at least if I knew somebody was there, like I leave them my business card, I give them my phone number, like they can call me. Then when it's time, when you're ready, you'll call me. And I have a whole lot of success stories for that, where they knew they could call me, because most businesses, I'm only open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No, my phone works 24/7. So I've had calls 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Do I wait for the call? No. Sometimes I'll wake up and answer. Sometimes I get up and go to the bathroom. And I see I got a call. I call them back and I talk to them. And in those calls, I'm able to do, like extra services. Like I'm able to help folks get to detox, get to the emergency room. I have woke my husband up and we jumped in the car and we went and got somebody from a trap house and brought them to their family. It depends on where we meet folks where they're at. You know what I'm saying? And so when I asked, so now I have my own LLC, right? And I've been working with a couple of women that I have for the last 7 years, and 2 of them have been out of their life, off of drugs, and got all reunified with their children and everything. And when I asked one of them, I said, "Well, what was it that, caused you to get out and to stay?" And they happily say, "You believed in me. Like you answered your phone when nobody else would. You kept giving me another chance, and then you gave me another chance." You know what I mean? And so if it's only that I know 5 women that successfully exited and that are reunified with their family and clean and sober, then I've done my job. Really, if it's only one, but I got quite a few. You know what I mean? And so I don't approach anybody as a professional, as a clinician, as a social worker, as a doctor. I approach people that I engage with as people with lived experiences or my sisters in the streets. And they know that, I'm a mentor, I'm a friend. Some of my younger girls call me auntie. I don't care. They're like, I'm not really an auntie, but you know how you got to use this slang. They're like, auntie, you a cool auntie, like, because I keep it real with them too. I speak their language. I don't candy coat nothing. And I'm passionate about them too. I defend them to the end. A lot of them, like once we rocking together, we rocking together. They become my family. You know what I mean? Because a lot of time they've lost their family along the way. And I remember how I lost my family. And sometimes we just have to reach out and build a whole new network of support to grow and move on for the betterment of our life. Because some of us come from dark families or dark backgrounds, dysfunctional families that'll never, just because we're in recovery don't mean anybody else is going to be in recovery. Everybody's not going to see things the way we see it. Everybody's not going to be as forgiving. Some folks be like, oh, I'm happy for you. But are you really? I can't tell because you're still giving shade. So
You sound a little confused.
yeah. So I have to be careful, right? Because I have a good example is I have some people still to this day. I'm coming up on 15 years clean. I'm a homeowner. I'm married. I'm a doctor, and they still say, "Girl, we ain't seen you at them meetings, them NA meetings." I said, "What?"
Mm-mm.
I said, and you just, I said, when they go, sometimes I meet folks where they at. I said, and you just coming back. Didn't I just see you at the detox the other day? And you're asking me for money. So why are you worried about what I'm doing when you need to be worried about what you're doing?
Yeah.
What you doing? Because to each his own. Like, I believe in a fellowship, in a program of Narcotics Anonymous, but I also believe in God. You know, and after 3 years clean, I decided to take what I need from the fellowships and just move on. So
Yeah.
I still do have like a mentor. I have a therapist, right? I have a support network. I know how to call somebody. And I know I get the gist of the NA and AA program. I just don't use no matter what.
Yeah.
And I work, this is my office. I work in treatment. I've been working in treatment for 10 years. I'm a clinician. I'm a social worker. I get them hot off the press. They come right here out of detox, soaking wet from addiction, and I'm able to like be the hope and the vision for them too, to let them know that you can get clean and sober and you can live a better life. You know what I'm saying? But it's up to you. It's not up to us. I'm going to give you some tools, and it's up to you to fill your tool belt or not. You know what I mean? And so like that's my story. You know, like I'm just grateful that God has shed His grace and mercy on me, because I really wanted to die. Not that I thought I was going to die. I wanted to die. In the end, I wanted to die. And I guess I laid in that scattered site apartment, and I thought about it, and I really didn't want to die. And I really didn't want to leave my children. And I really didn't want to suffer like I was suffering. And so I made a conscious decision to say, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. And God, if you get me out of this, I swear I'll go back and help folks just like me. Because I am a little selfish in the work that I do. I really want to help people who share the same lived experiences. I mean, now I do other stuff, but my focus really is people who've been trafficked and exploited. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned you have a book. Tell us a little more about your book. And I want to put the link and everything in a description so people will see it.
Yeah, I can. So my book is called Stacy's Joy, A Woman Moving Forward, the autobiography. And so it's the first book of a 5-book series.
Okay.
Yeah, so my second book will be out next month in March. So this is my first book. It's live. I don't know if you can see, it's live on Amazon.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
And so the book is, well, I can read the book review too. It says, Stacy's Joy, A Woman Moving Forward is a memoir about an awakening. Stacy Reed-Barnes puts to words the unspeakable. A childhood filled with dreams and longings is the backdrop to her abusive reality. Early adolescent love ends abruptly, violently pushed into a life of prostitution and exploitation that takes her into the depths of drug addiction. One knows from the beginning of Mrs. Reed's book that it will end well, because how else could she have written her memoir? Yet she still manages to surprise the reader. Her style is direct, unabridged, and honest. Throughout, I felt a woman who wants nothing but to be generous with her reader. She can give so much because it is palpable that she has exercised the shame that otherwise would have kept her captive in the hell she escaped. I highly recommend Mrs. Reed-Barnes' book for the reader interested in learning about human trafficking from the perspective of someone who has lived it. I also think that Mrs. Reed-Barnes' memoir would be an invaluable tool to use in the classroom. At both the college and the graduate level. This book can complete the theoretical works on human trafficking that can sometimes distance the reader from the realities of prostitution and how inextricably intertwined it is with exploitation. As Ms. Reed-Barnes wittingly calls out, prostitution is indeed the oldest oppression in the world. And so, yeah. So, and I wrote this book. It looks like here they're showing it's been out since 2019, and it's a 4.5-star book. It's almost 5. Because some people are not going to like it. That's fine. And then my second book is Ode to Girls Like Me. So it's a book that I'm writing now, finishing up now, and it's 5 chapters. So it's 5 poems, 5 chapters. But I go into depth about my life when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So I'm talking to the girls, like, to girls like me. So I'm giving them a nice poem, and then I'm breaking down what the poem meant, and I'm teaching about like brainwashing, gaslighting, codependency, things of that nature. Then I give them questions to ask themselves, and then I give them words of encouragement. So it's a pretty cool little book, and it's a quick little read because girls like me at my age, they don't want no novel. They just want something quick they can zip through that they can identify with, that's funny, that's real, And so I just figured, like, that's what I'm going to do. So that's my second book. My third book is going to be Stacy's Joy, A Woman Moving Forward, Relationships. And then there's another one that I got coming out. I can't say it on the podcast because it's a swear. There's a few swear words. But it's that S is messed up. That stuff is messed up, but I save the swear words. Because I talk about... In that book, I talk about all the abuse and the chaos that happens in the life. Like, I give different stories about, like, real trauma. You know what I mean? So that S is effed up. So that's what I say. So because a lot of times I've been in places and spaces where people don't want to talk about human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. They'll say, people don't want to hear those stories. Why not? You say you're in the movement to help anti-trafficking, but then when we want to tell you the truth about our stories, you want us to water it down or not say it. So then you don't want me in your place and space because I got to keep it real. Like when I go to, and that's why I prefer a lot of times to like, I'll present to anybody, but I love presenting to like halfway houses and sober houses because I know those people in those places get it. Like they need to hear that. Like they don't have a problem with that. When I go to middle schools and high schools, I kind of chill out a little bit, but I keep it real with the little teenage girls. I just did a presentation in New York City at an all-girls school, and they loved it. My daughter is the dean there. She was afraid. She was like, "Oh, Mom, I don't know. I was like, "Don't worry, honey. I got this." I went in that school, and I knocked that out of the park. Them little girls is so happy. "Oh, Miss Stacy, can you come back? That was cool. Yeah, that happened to me, too. Yeah, they said this. I got them because I got them in the presentation. Like, I asked them questions, and I had them raise their hand so the teachers could see, every time they raise their hand, like, what's going on, right? Yeah. And so that was epic. That my last presentation at the middle school, that was epic. But I really love to be able to like talk to folks where I can really be my authentic self, keep it real about the phenomenon, tell the truth no matter what, and be unapologetic about the realities of human trafficking, because it's a real thing. And if we don't, let me just say this too, it mostly happens to us black and brown. So why normalize it for us or sensationalize it for us and give everybody else services? What are we doing? So, and I know this to be true because I've been working in the system for 28 years now. And I ran groups at MCI Framingham, and I run groups at the jail now, South Bay, right? Jail here in Boston. And what I notice is when I walk into the jails to run the groups, right? They're all women of color. But when I go into the halfway houses, they're mostly all white women. So they're giving them treatment and they're locking us up. So I keep it real about, and then most of my presentations for the month this year, 2025, in January, I started my little campaign, Stacy's Joy, Human Trafficking Awareness in Our Community. Okay. And it went over so well. I did about 8 to 10 events last month. People was like, "Can you come? Can you come? Can you come?" Yeah, I'm gonna come. So I do it at our community centers. I did it at their mosque. I did it at the Prince Hall. I did it at the library. Oh, I'm not playing about it. I do a nice little setup and offer some light refreshments. And I get into it. I tell them the truth. I break down the definition of human trafficking, because a lot of people don't understand, or they just see like some of the people out and they don't understand that, you got to talk about how it breaks down. You know what I mean? Because a lot of folks don't know that.
Correct.
Especially in our marginalized and vulnerable neighborhoods, they don't know that, and so it was refreshing and rewarding for me to talk to some women from certain churches because they didn't know. Our aunties didn't know. I was like, "What? You don't understand?" I didn't say it to them, but I was like, "This is how." And so I've done Zoom calls and everything, and now I'm just getting requested everywhere to do that presentation for them because people are hearing about it. They're like, "Whoa, can you come and do it?" So I got quite a few bookings for this month, a couple for next month. But I've been presenting for an organization that I work with that dealt with human trafficking for like 9 years. I helped them grow their business. And so when it was time for me to step away, I just felt like it was super important for me to start my own thing, which is Stacy's Joy Consulting LLC, to start my own business, survivor-led and survivor-owned, Black-owned, right, business, to go around and to share with our communities like the seriousness of human trafficking and how we can be aware of it and the red flags and all the things, because a lot of times folks don't understand. They don't understand force, fraud, or coercion. They don't understand that. They didn't understand that when you seen the girls standing on the block, half the time it wasn't because they wanted to, or it was because either they had an addiction problem, or they had a pimp, or the drug dealer told them to be out there. They don't see those people as people who've been trafficked. They're stuck on the stigma of the people who are handcuffed or duct taped or got their hands over their mouth and thrown into the white vans. No, honey, human trafficking is happening right here in our own backyards. Yeah. And I got tricked into it at the age of 14 and couldn't get out until like the age of 20. So then after the age of 20, I was in and out because I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. And now here I am at 58 years old with 15 years clean out of the life. That's crazy. And if I got to be real honest, when I first got clean, I wasn't in a rush because easy money is quick money. It's easy money. Let me just keep it real. I wasn't in a rush until God put it on my heart, like I wanted to get married. And I said, I never want to get married and regret my marriage. I don't want to be dishonest in my marriage. And so I had to let the regulars and the sugar daddies and all them go. And that was the hardest thing to do because in the end, I really didn't have to do anything with them. So, and that's what I talk about. That's what I talk about with the young girls, about the OnlyFans and then the pictures. But the pictures go a long way. You can't erase pictures anymore now with social media. And I tell them that with the porn hubs and all that, they don't know who's behind all that stuff. And so I also do advocacy on the state and federal level. Like I go to the state house. I'm on a couple of I rally with a couple of organizations to go and advocate for bills and laws that help people who've been trafficked and exploited. And so, it's just my life's work. I was part of the group who went to Maine and testified on the bill so they can get a partial decrim bill so they can stop penalizing people who've been trafficked and give them resources. So that was great. I've been to Rhode Island. I've been to Washington a few times, knock on some legislators' doors, their office doors, and say, hey, listen, y'all want to pass these laws? I don't think so. This is not okay. As a person with lived experiences, that's not okay. And then I like to wake up our younger generation by letting them know. You see the Cardi B's and all them, and the Mega Stallions and all the famous rappers and icons and stuff. But do you see them letting their kids do what they do? Do you think Culture could be a stripper? Do you think Culture could talk like her mother? I don't think so. And we all love Beyonce, but do you really think that Blue Ivy can have an OnlyFans? So let's just think about that when y'all start saying, oh, they said to do that. Yeah, they're going to tell you to do anything. That sounds fabulous. Because we're always sensationalizing, normalizing this way of life, when in fact, if you would not do it, why would you encourage somebody else to do it? And then why would you encourage us? Haven't we suffered enough as a people? As a people, black and brown, have we suffered enough? Aren't they trying to roll us back with Project 25? What are we doing? So what I do is so you can see me, you can imagine in my presentation, I get down, I do what I have to do. I use songs like I Will Rise by Andra Day. I use songs like Live My Life Like It's Golden Jill Scott in the end to wrap it up. I use songs like Yolanda Adams. I use I use a lot of music to share the impact of what I'm trying to do to make a difference in the lives of people who just really don't want to live a certain way. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Stacy Reed-Barnes. It's been amazing to have you and to hear a little bit of your story. And just let everyone know, don't forget, get that book, Stacy's Joy, right?
Yep, Stacy's Joy, A Woman Moving Forward, the autobiography. And stay tuned for Stacy's Joy, Ode to Girls Like Me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Continue to have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right. Yeah, be well.